Hey guys, back with another Maplestory video here. This time, second will clear, doing a little comparison to the first one. Essentially the same, 3-second different. DPS was about 1 to 2 bill different, and that's pretty insane. And in a long 15-minute fight, I think it's really challenging to consistently do DPS. And it wasn't just me. Most of the team between the two runs were pretty spot on, consistent. Each run, I would say 7, 8 out of us were within 5 bill DPM of what our first run was. And that kind of tells me that, for one, our first one, we were playing really well and on top of our game. And the second one was just slightly better, right? A little bit of progress, but we were already hitting our peaks for most of us. I think some of us feel like they could play better, but others, like across the board, we're being consistent with our damage, which is what is allowing us to, clear consistently, right? Know what to expect from every person through each phase and hitting these check marks. And that is kind of what phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 honestly is all about. It's about like hitting those check marks within a certain amount of time. And if one person or two people are struggling, having a hard time, it's really hard to consistently clear in short amount of time. So this one, it took us two buff sets. And our hardest part was getting through literally that first minute of phase 1. We had some trouble getting, depending on who was in the red room, getting to each check mark burst-wise and getting into each room and filling the gauge. But one of the things that I think not a lot of people know if you haven't done Will or haven't, been around our Discord channel chats is that in phase 1, you want to get back to the purple room first and clear purple room every time after every screen crack and every test, right? So you see we're tunneling down the purple HP down there in the middle on the HP bar first. And then once we hit zeros here, we move over to the blue room. So it was actually really close. For some reason, this phase was kind of sweaty. I had to stun there just in case teleported or something, and we were able to get through it right at the end. Pretty insane. Like that. The hardest part for us was that first minute and the second minute, but after that, each test was smooth sailing. And so you can see kind of the DPS charts at the start. Phase 1, it really benefits paladins and classes that have bursts like Night Lords, like Wild Hunters, kind of 60-second on, 60-second off type of burst and skills, because as you can see, entire time for my Divine Echo is going to be up while we're doing DPS, and then when there's downtime, I'm going to be doing tests and doing the mechanics of the boss where I can't do any damage. So it kind of works out nicely where our burst kind of just keeps us ahead, and then when we're other classes catch up, no one can catch up, and then we kind of just pull ahead a little bit. So that's why me with my 57 mil cap is able to compete and stick with some of the other bigger guns on the team with more cap. It's not really me per se, it's kind of just the way the class is and the way the boss is set up in phase 1 and phase 2 anyways. So looks like right here we're going to finish through phase 1, this third test, pretty easily. A lot of time to spare. And here we are finishing phase 1 in the top 3. Podium kind of as expected, the best burst. We got Mila Rings, our Night Lord, and then Truffalox E Ed on the Nightwalker, and I'm slightly behind them. But finishing the test here. About 10 more seconds. And you can see phase 1 is pretty tankable. Like all of the extracurricular kind of debris and stuff that goes on is really nothing to worry about. And it's really just about positioning and making sure that the boss is faced away from the team and everyone's kind of standing behind it, just to avoid damage when you can. Phase 2, honestly, our better phase in this run. And usually for most teams, and for us in the past, we've had a few deaths here because it does take a little bit getting used to using the Moonlight Gauge to heal up. If you don't know, you cannot heal or trigger your Power Elixir until you click on the Moonlight Gauge. So right here, you see my Power Elixir isn't triggering. My HP is going down with my V3, and then I trigger the Moonlight Gauge, and then Power Elixir heals me up. So we were able to really get a good grasp of phase 2, when the spider's coming, when to heal, good communication, and you can see we're getting a lot of healing from our bishop here once my potion is up. So that is just the main thing. Burst, phase 2 is very quick. It's pretty much 1 minute burst on, test for a minute, and then back and forth. And we actually had some misplays here on this phase 1, but thank goodness it's not a one-shot, and thank goodness you just have to use your Moonlight Gauge to heal, and we were able to get through that unscathed. No harm, no foul. And then in the second test later on, I actually messed up a little bit too. So everyone makes mistakes, but there's, thank goodness, room for error. We have our CR hourglass up as well. And any sort of defensive for HP scaling or reducing helps. And so we're finished that test successfully. Knock back there. Echo off a cooldown. Here's Spider right here. And we're just bursting it down. Pretty much V3 is going to come up at the perfect time with Defense Match 4 available, so I'm going to use that immediately off a cooldown while Synchro is still up. Oh, holding aggro a little bit for a second here. Not paying attention. Heal up. And we should be in a good spot. Finishing it off, getting to this next check mark. So yeah, phase 2 is extremely fast. And just mainly this test. You got to get through this test. If you fail any of these tests, you're not going to make it in time. So there's definitely like an anxiety, kind of stressfulness to this part. And 2 weeks in, the team kind of locked in here and really knew what to do. Didn't really have any issues. And I kind of misclicked there for some reason, and I overran that test, but used the Moonlight Gauge, healed up immediately, and kind of got back on track without any issues. So, crisis averted. The results, 10 lives going into phase 3. Very nice. And I made sure to mount here, because Divine Echo is about to come back off a cooldown, so I just didn't want it to proc to the wrong person until I reselected Ed, let him get poison, which I think he got right there, Synchro, and we're kind of off and running. We had a little bit of a shaky start here because, and this is pretty normal for most classes, for most teams, the aggro kind of jumps here depending on whose burst is up and things like that. So you can see Trufflelock X gets it here, and he gets it for quite a while. So we sort of go through a little bit of a struggle period here, kind of keeping things together and kind of keeping things in check and creating stability. So yeah, Trufflelock X kind of had to stay on the right side here. Make sure that Will is facing right. Do a pretty good job of clearing poisons, clearing webs here. And I think I die here. I kind of got lost while disoriented and things like that. I don't know what I'm doing here. I think I was getting aggro for a bit, and then, yeah, so I was actually the first death. Troll in there. We don't have a second paladin res, so just had to take it, unfortunate. And actually take the second death too. So like right here, I'm trying to clear webs because I don't have any damage up anyways. Like my echo's not up or anything, so I think a lot of people are just trying to reset, make sure we're clean with the webs, and then when our cooldowns are kind of back up here in the next 10 seconds, we can get off and running. And I died. Yeah, I died right there again. I don't know what I'm doing, but took the opportunity to re-cleanse the webs, and Sanko's up, ain't gonna die. Sort of just get figured out. But yeah, I mean, the team is looking really solid here. Besides my misplays, I kind of messed up my DPS. I waited too long here for some reason for my V3, and I almost misused it altogether and didn't get it in time. Like even here, DS4 is up. I'm like clearing webs and doing all kind of stuff. My V4s, using that, and then I use it at the last second. So it kind of worked out nicely, where I was able to pair it with Defense Match 4, but it kind of was a little weird there. And if you didn't notice, Will skill has not been used, is not usable versus Will. Strange mechanic. It's the only boss you can't use it against, but that's just the way it is. It's sort of like a mirror skill or something. And so it, even though a lot of us got the drops last week, it doesn't really provide us much value in this boss. And so here, about 90 seconds left. We're in a good spot. You know, we have 5 lives remaining. We're just trying to reset webs, getting a little bit more chaotic. They do spawn a little bit faster towards the end of the fight, more frequently. So we do try to do a good job of cleansing it while we can. And then Sanko's going to come up here in a second, pretty much use it off a cooldown for Ed, and he'll be safe for the next 30 seconds. And we're just kind of trying to finish it off right here. Cooldown's up. I think we tried to split. We split earlier. I'm going to stun it later when I have it available. And never really felt too sweaty for us. Really gives us confidence that after we get through that first minute, we can get through phase 2 and phase 3 clean and clear. So for us, as long as we clear that first minute in a good spot, able to get through the V3 here, finish it off. I mean, we cleared 3 seconds faster, which is a lot. I mean, 14:48 for us, because our cap, Willstone? No, because our cap isn't the greatest, but got it done. Excited. And this is the end result, the battle analysis, something I always like to look on and compare my previous run to my current run, whether it's PR or not. And so here I have the battle analysis from the current PR, today's run, 14:48. I did 3.12 bill DPS, basically just under 2.8 trillion. And last week's run was not far off, 3.09 versus 3.12, 3 minutes, 3 seconds difference. So what I like to do is I just like to look and see how the damage breakdown is. And you'll notice that, and I noticed that the percent breakdown is pretty similar, right? It's amazing how consistent for a 15-minute fight, how the DPS is pretty consistent across the board for me personally, and a lot of the players on the team, right? Kind of showing how locked in everyone was DPS wise, knowing the rotations, knowing how to get their burst out and damage out consistently, which is a big reason why we were actually able to PR and, you know, able to clear at consistent times, similar times, right? So this one, what I like to look at here is first the Grand Guardian. For me personally as a paladin, I got to make sure that I get maximum amount of uses of this. 8 uses did 25% of my damage. 8 uses, 8 uses. And then Mighty Mjolnir, 73 uses right here. Did about 570 bill damage, 20%, 74, 22%, 618. So that's one area where, you know, and it was about basically about 1 use difference, 16,000 lines versus 17. But that's 40, almost 50 bill damage from that one different use, right? So that's something. And the crazy part is, you know, that's where the damage came from. The blast lines, surprisingly, in my PR, in this run right here, I did blast 820 times versus 858. 38 less uses of blast, my main skill. 34,000, 34.6 lines here versus 32. So I was short about 2,000 lines. And that translated to about 729 to about just under 40 bill DPM. So that's where I sort of made up the difference. The Mjolnir was 570 here and about 50 bill difference between that. And this is why this one was less and this one was more. So it's just interesting to see. And then Grand Guardian is about 6 bill difference here. And then Hammers of Righteousness somehow was significantly more here. 308 versus 277. 900 lines more. That's interesting how that happened. And that is another reason why I was able to slightly be better and kind of offset the less blast uses. And then Divine Judgment obviously here is higher because it procs off my blast lines. So slightly different, about 9 bill, not huge. And everything below that is all minuscule. Like Weapon Aura 56 was 52, all minor, right? But the main meat and potatoes for my class personally is this. And what I'm looking at. And so what I decipher and kind of what I like to find areas to improve on is why did I do so many less blast lines here, 820 versus 858? If I could get 40 more bill out of my blast lines, and on top of it, get this Mighty Mjolnir to be the same, to do 618, 40 bill more damage versus blast, and get all those blast lines in, I could do what? Not significantly a lot more, but let's say 40 bill more damage, 50 bill more damage. And that would push me over, what, 2.8 bill, 2.8 trill, pushing me over probably 190 bill DPM. Just something. I'm always looking for ways to improve, and I always like to look at this battle analysis to see, did I do everything right? And did I do everything consistently? Or could I have found different areas to improve on and, see if I can PR even better, do even better to help the team clear a little bit faster, and personally just to find ways to min-max. So just wanted to showcase this a little bit at the end, how I kind of nerd out on this stuff and what I look for when it comes to battle analysis, because a lot of times people have no idea what's going on. And if you're wondering right here, minimum damage lines, not too sure why it's so low, but these are cap clone lines. So they're small to begin with. Like Blast is average 22 mil. Righteous Hammers is pretty low as well. But that is pretty standard. Pretty standard here. And if you guys made it all the way to the end of the video, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join the Discord community. The Echo Clan community is growing, the best community in the game right now. And if you want to take your gameplay to the next level, improve your gameplay, do more damage, do more DPS, you definitely want to subscribe. The first 7 days are free and you're going to get full access to everything in the channel. So you definitely want to check that out. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time.